Welcome to the LA Business Podcast, a forum for business owners and senior executives to share the experiences about the elements that drive their success. Your host is Robert Brill, CEO of Brill Media.co, an Inc. 500 company delivering the power of hyperlocal advertising. Robert writes for Forbes, Inc. and ad trade publications. Our goal is to bring you the stories about successes and failures of people who are making big things happen in marketing, entrepreneurship, and management.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the LA Business Podcast. Today our guest is John Murphy, executive coach, senior executive across multiple massive companies. John, tell us a little bit about yourself and welcome to our show.
Robert, thank you so much. And thank you for the opportunity to come along and talk to you today. Just to give you a bit of background, I started my corporate career as a door-to-door insurance salesman. I then, after failing at that miserably at the beginning, I managed to succeed a little bit better. And then so much that they promoted me to become a sales manager and then progressed through different companies to sales director, then marketing director, then general manager. And the last proper job I had in the corporate world was the CEO of a pan-European insurance group based in Dublin. Did that job for 7 years and discovered that I enjoyed the journey to get there rather than actually being there. Although I did enjoy the early part of it, but then after a number of years, I began to feel I was repeating myself. So I had to make the call. Do I continue doing that, or do I scratch the itch of becoming an entrepreneur and build my own business? So I left 16 years ago, and I really kind of took the part of the business that I enjoyed doing most, which was kind of hiring, recruiting, developing individuals and building successful teams. And so I started doing that 16 years ago, and I continue to this day. And fortunately, I've managed to work with some great clients, like Pfizer, Airbus, Vodafone, Merck, State Street Bank, and many others, and it's been a real joy. So that's a very quick journey through my CV.
And what do you do as an executive coach? Can you dive into deeper into that and how you help companies? Like, is it with mindset? Is it with sales growth? Is it all of it combined?
Well, what I do primarily, I tend to be brought in for whether it's a CEO of a business or whether it's a senior executive in an organization. And really what they're looking for is, some transformation. So it could be, listen, I really need to develop my people. I need to make sure that I'm optimizing the team. So how do I go about doing that? What is it about what I need to do in order to do that? It can also be about I really need to figure out how do I build this team? How do I make it into an effective team? So what are the things that I need to be doing in order to change that and make that effective? And then also looking at, I find, sometimes you get people say, listen, I'm completely overwhelmed by the amount of things that I've got to get done. I just don't seem to be structured. I can working every hour that God sends, but I'm not actually getting the results that I'm looking for. So, help me do that. And my job is to really challenge the way they're doing things, challenge the way they're thinking about doing things, and then to kind of help them to put some shape and structure on that to help them to be more effective in their own roles, but then also to really build their teams to be more effective in their roles. So I also work with the teams then. So I have a kind of a team process where I get in, do analytics on the teams, figure out the bits of the teams that we actually need to focus in on, and then facilitate the team to make that change. And I think as a coach, that's really what you do, is facilitate change. I mean, I can't come to you, Robert, and change you. I can challenge you, I can encourage you, I can motivate you, I can, maybe threaten you sometimes, but I can't actually change you. But I can only kind of create the environment in which you decide to actually make the changes yourself. But it's a fascinating to work with individuals because you get into very deep relationships with people, and you're really part of seeing them because you're working with them over a period of time. You get the great satisfaction of seeing them grow and evolve in those roles and to become much more effective, but also to become much more fulfilled in what they're doing. Because at the end of the day, I can work with somebody to make them more effective at what they're doing. but I also, engaged with them to make sure that they're looking at how they're actually creating a fulfilling life across all aspects of their lives.
So it sounds like you unlock barriers that they might have to ensure that they can do what they do best without these barriers in front of them.
That's true. I mean, because in reality, for all of us, in terms of growth or change, we actually get in our own way more than anything else. And we have limiting beliefs. We have beliefs that we hold on dear to. And also, don't forget that very often we hold on to beliefs because we're getting something from that belief. We don't hold on to it just for no reason. Maybe it's habit, it could be habit, but we're getting something from holding that belief. But if that belief is holding you back, then it's about unlocking that and kind of helping somebody to realize that, if they keep on doing what they're doing and if they keep on believe what they're believing, then they're actually going to keep on getting the results. And they come to me because at some level or in some areas, they're not getting the results that they want to get. So it's really to help people to understand how they play out in the world. And we use different assessment tools as well. I mean, I do a lot of work around the whole area of emotional intelligence. And that's really to get people to understand, this is how you impact, this is how you're likely to impact other people. Because we're not the best judge of ourselves, because, I might not realize that, the way I communicate with people is actually having quite a negative effect upon them. I might think I'm communicating brilliantly. I might think that the way I'm behaving is actually having, a great impact upon people. But when you actually do assessments on emotional intelligence, also do assessments in terms of their leadership style, so that we get, that's a 360, so we get feedback from different groups, is to actually get to kind of put a mirror up to people and say, listen, this is how your behavior is playing out with the people that you're connected to, that are part of the success, and particularly in your work area. You can also do it in their personal life, but let's confine it to the work area. So this is how these different groups that you're interacting with, this is how they see you. And very often you get people say, oh, well, they're just misunderstanding. We say, well, listen, that's beside the point, right? It's not up to them to change their opinion of you or their perception of you. It's up to you to actually change something about how you're behaving, so that you make sure that you're changing their perception of you. Because if you want to guide and lead people, they've got to believe that you are somebody that is worth following. But if they see a behavior in you that there's kind of just puts a distance between them and you, well, then it's up to you to make that change. It's not up to them to shift their opinion. You've got to do something that really counteracts how they see you and actually makes that shift. So this is all part of the conversation of kind of taking it bit by bit. So you go through it over a period of time to really help people to understand that, why they should change. And if they make that change, what are the consequences of those changes? So they become a more effective leader. They become a more effective manager. They become a more successful leader. They become a more successful CEO. And that ultimately is what you're trying to achieve. But it's also about helping them to understand, what is it that they want from their overall life. I mean, if you talk to, you talk about success, Robert, for you, success for me, success for other people can be completely different things, right? So, is to actually get people to define what does success mean for them in different areas of their lives, not just in that single kind of job area. Because I'm not a fan of this kind of work-life balance thing, because I just think that's, for the birds. Because it's about your life. Work is part of your life. And it's about creating the space in your life to do the things that you want to do. But you've got to be clear about what is it that you're seeking to achieve. And the more and more I kind of grow with the business, and the more and more I kind of deal with clients, the more I realize that so many that I'm dealing with are really looking to have a life of significance, to actually have a life that has some meaning. not just to them, but the people that are very close to them. And they want to be, yes, they want to be successful in life. Yes, they want to have, all the success that can bring. But they also want to have a successful personal life in terms with their family, with their partners, if they're kids, if that's what they have, with their families, in their community. And they want to feel that they're growing. And, I think it's interesting at different stages in people's lives, they kind of think, well, okay, well, what's the legacy going to be for what I'm doing? Is there something? Is this just about me? And if it's just about me, that becomes a very narrow focus. So it is about taking it into that broader area to kind of get people to understand and to define what success means in all of the different aspects of their lives. So sorry, that was a long-winded answer to your question.
No, I really enjoyed that. I'm wondering, do you see any trends across the different people that you connect with? And you touched on some of them already in your answer, but in more detail, maybe, like, do you find that I'm in an entrepreneurs group, and it seems like there's a lot of the similar challenges that we all have that I didn't even realize we were having until someone verbalized it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that what you do see an awful lot of is people searching to find what is that piece that I've got to just make that shift. Because by definition, the people that I come in contact with, the people that you come in contact with, are successful. Depends on your different determination of what success would be. But I mean, they're not failures, right? They're not not able to do anything. They are successful. So when you're talking about, bringing somebody to the next level, it's not a major surgery. It's fine tuning, right? It's actually finding just those small things that you've just got to recalibrate a little bit. And I think that's what people are searching for. So they're actually trying to figure out, what is it that I need to do that extra bit that is just going to have that incremental impact. So I think one is that search. I think the other part, which is going back to what I was talking about there, I think that the other thing that I do find is that people are more and more kind of saying, okay, well, it is about, the job, I've got to be effective at it, or it's my business, I've got to be really successful at that. But is that it? Is that just it? Is it just about, yes, I build a business and ergo I will, tick all the boxes, or, I become successful in my corporate career, ergo I tick all the boxes. And I think people are just getting more and more reflective. And I think in the current climate, I think certainly that is something that I'm seeing more and more of, that people, are just getting that a bit more reflective. But, I think they're also seeing the things that are really important to them, and recognizing that these are the things that are really important. So I need to give more time to them. And perhaps I do take some of these things for granted and I don't appreciate it. And also some of the things that I thought were desperately important now suddenly are perhaps not so important. So I think there is that shifting going on. And I think that, that's really been the driver for me, Robert, to kind of develop, Mastermind Group, because I think that what people are looking for is connection. They're looking to have conversations with like-minded people who are in a similar situation, not exactly the same situation, but similar situations, who really want to be held accountable in order to get their lives to the next level. And that's why I'm kind of developing that model and that platform for people, because I think that's what it's coming more and more to me. I just find that personal side is just bubbling to the surface more and more, and people are recognizing that this is actually something that is creating a gap in my life. And if I don't address that, something really significant is going to happen that I really don't want to happen. I think if you go back, a number of years, you go back to the market crash in 2007, 2008, and there was a realigning at that time. And people realizing, sometimes that, things that they thought that they absolutely had, assets that they thought were, gilt-edged and were going to be forever and were always going to go up in value, suddenly they were valueless. So there were a lot of lessons learned in that. I think this period of time, I think there's just going to be a much bigger shift, because people are realizing so many things that I took for granted are just being taken away from me. And these are the things that I really value. So I think there is that realignment that people are looking for, so that they are creating successful lives, not just successful careers and not just successful businesses, and actually trying to find that balance where they do have that level of integrity about themselves, that they feel that they're actually, building and creating a life that is of some worth and value to the people that really care for them.
I really like this. I mean, I think the core idea for this podcast is helping companies grow and scale, and I think you really can't have a successful company if the leader is doing things that turn people off. I think fundamentally business owners really need to be able to connect with people, and I certainly have those challenges, and there are moments when I say, oh, why did I just say that, or why did I communicate the way that I did? Yeah
I think that's so true. And I think because I do think that when we talk about leaders, and the world is searching for leaders, the world is so hungry for leaders, in all aspects of life, in political aspects, social aspects, religious aspects, all aspects of life, people are looking for leaders. But in order to be a leader, you've got to have followers. Right. It doesn't come with the title. I mean, I might be the CEO of my own company, but that doesn't actually automatically make me a leader. Right. So people have got to follow you, and people will only follow you if they see you as somebody that is worth following. Right. And that's more to do about what you stand for. It's got more to do about how you behave. It's got more to do about how you integrate with people and how you interact with people. And there's a lot of talk about value-based leadership, and I think that's true, because people are looking for people not just to say the right things. It's not just kind of the headline banner and that I come out and that I'm a good orator and I can say all the lines. But if I could do all of that, but my behavior is in conflict with that, if my behavior is not consistent with that, people see that in a heartbeat. So now I'm not going to be followed by them, because they might have a transactional relationship with me in the sense that they will turn up, do the work, and get paid. But that's just a transactional relationship. That's not being a real leader, or that's not having a real leader either. And so for leaders is about making sure that they do live according to the values that they promote and that they say that they and their organization stands for. And that's putting a lot of pressure on themselves, because now they've got to make sure that everything they do is consistent with their values. And I find it interesting, Robert, when I look around the teams that I've worked with, teams all over the globe, right? Different countries, different cultures, different organizations, different types of organizations, different industries. But it's no coincidence that the leaders who are really value-based leaders, right, are the leaders that have the most successful teams. That's not a coincidence.
Can you talk about value-based leadership?
Well, what I mean, that they really stand for something. They're very clear about what they believe, and they're very clear what they stand for. That's how they treat their customers. It's how they treat their providers. It's how they treat their staff. It's about how they behave. There is always consistent with that. Now, we'll all screw up every now and again, right? And we'll all get it wrong. But it's putting your hand up when you do get it wrong and being truthful about it. Say, listen, I made a complete mess of that, But I think it's people are looking for that. But those leaders, because they attract people, and the people want to perform for them, so they go the extra yard for them. So it is no coincidence when you look at high-performing teams, the basis of any high-performing team is trust, right? It's not the best product, the best process, the best price. It's nothing to do with that. High-performing teams are all the foundation for all of that is trust. And when you talk about trust, it's that I can be open, I can be vulnerable, I can put my hand up and say I'm struggling, and I'm not going to get that. Nobody's going to use that as leverage to knife me in the back. So the teams that have that high level of trust, they get things done quicker because there aren't games being played, there aren't politics being played, there aren't people, saying one thing and doing another. So when you get that high level of trust, the whole wheels of productivity and the process wheels just move an awful lot faster and an awful lot smoother. So there is a real competitive advantage to value-based leadership. And there's enough research around the place that actually clearly demonstrates that.
Do you have any examples that you can share in real time of companies that either you've worked with or observationally that you see in the news or wherever that that exemplify this value-based leadership?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly have seen. I mean, for example, I've done a lot of work in Pfizer, right? And in Pfizer, certainly the CEO who retired from there in the last number of months, Ian Reid. I mean, Ian Reid was a fantastic man in terms of actually promulgating a whole how people should behave with each other, how should behave with customers, and to do that across an organization the size of Pfizer globally is an enormous undertaking. But he was absolutely consistent right through his tenure. He was absolutely consistent about what he stood for, how people should behave, how people should take responsibility for themselves, that they don't just pass the buck, how they behave with each other in terms of staff, how they treated their customers, how they treated the suppliers. And he was a great example of somebody, through a very challenging time. The one thing that everybody knew exactly what he stood for. And I think he was a great, great example of that. And I think the world just needs, more leaders like that and more leaders in organizations. And, we've seen, examples in around the world. But I think that when you actually see it up close, it just makes such a difference. It makes such a difference to the organization. That clarity and that openness and the transparency becomes so much healthier. So people actually perform within that environment.
Are there any telltale signs of actions that you might see people take that indicate that they are clearly not a leader?
When it's all about them. I mean, when they are more concerned about themselves than they are other people, would be a very, very clear indicator to me that that's actually somebody that is too much focused on themselves. The reality is, we tend to draw organizational structures like pyramids, right? And that's traditionally how you see it on, the corporate slide. And the truth is that actually, when you look at real leaders, it's actually flipped the other way. They play very much a servant role to the people that work with them and that report to them. They're there to support. They're there to create an environment. They're there to create an atmosphere that of openness and trust. They're there to provide the resources to help people to be really effective at doing it. So it's actually quite the opposite. So if I see somebody that is just totally focused on themselves and what they can get from the organization, from the business, and that it's just about what they're going to get and how they can actually get the biggest bang for their buck. I'm all about efficiency and effectiveness, don't get me wrong, because a business has to be profitable. If a business isn't profitable, it doesn't exist and it can't actually do anything. Nobody is actually going to go anywhere with it. But if you're having a conversation and the conversation is all about them or is focused entirely on them, that would be a huge, huge indicator to me. The other indicator that I would look for when I'd ask a leader, I said, tell me about Robert, right? And then I just see, what does he know or she know about Robert? And if the answer is, well, Robert is this job and he produces X, Y, Z, and he's done that percentage of his job, that's it. Well, you've only told me one part of it. Tell me something else. So how much does that leader know about you as an individual? How much does that leader know about what are your ambitions? What are your hopes? What are your aspirations? What are you looking to achieve? What role are they going to play in doing that? But if the only thing they can talk about is the transactional relationship that you turn up and you produce, then that's a real big a real big sign for me. The other thing that you look for is that if you look in conversations within the team and listen to the conversations, and if there's game playing going on and politics going on, and people are kind of saying certain things but they're not being open, then there's a real issue, and that the leader has to do something about it. Now, very often that can happen because somebody's just taken over an existing team and now they've got to change it. But if you're looking at a team that's been there a long time and there's no openness, there's no transparency, then that's an indication that this has been led in a way that is actually not going to get the most out of that team.
So I've really paid attention to a lot around emotional IQ over the last 2-3 years, and I think I don't have a lot of it. I just know that about myself. So how can a leader do well when they don't? I don't think I have a high emotional IQ. How do I be a good leader when I think I don't have high emotional IQ?
Well, there are two things. One is you can get assessed to actually understand, because emotional intelligence is measured over a number of different areas, right? It's a measure. It's about how you are internally. It's about how you are, one-to-one with people, and it's about how you are with groups. So it looks at you from various different aspects, and there's kind of you break it down below that into impulse control, how you are, how you connect with people, your empathy with people, and so you got to look at different areas. So one is to get assessed, which would be one way of doing it, to actually understand where the big gaps are. The biggest part, to be honest, Robert, is that if you know that you don't have a high level of emotional intelligence, then the question is, well, what do you want to do different? Because I can show you, I can do an assessment, and I could, interview and do an assessment, and then we could have a conversation about it. But if fundamentally you don't want to change, that is just interesting data that you're going to do nothing about. So I would be asking questions. Okay, well, when you say I don't have high emotional intelligence, well, give me examples of where you believe this has not gone well for you. And then we talk about, well, why did you say that? What caused you to say that? What would you, if you were reflecting upon it, what would you do differently? How do you want those people to feel about when they interact with you? I remember a number of years ago, I know somebody that I'd worked with, and been working with her for a period of time. And we were talking about emotional intelligence. They came up and they said, would you assess me? I said, yeah. So anyway, did it. Cutting a long story short, one of the things they came back on was that their score on empathy was extremely low. Now, this person, really lovely person, right? Good communicator. So as far as he was concerned, low in empathy, no. He said, I agree with everything else that the report says, but I don't agree. I think they got it wrong when it comes to empathy. And I said, well, no, actually, I agree with it. And he said, come on, you can't say that. We've worked together quite some time. I said, I know, but I said, when you're communicating with somebody, you're actually just focusing on the message that you're giving to the other person. You're not actually really, really focused in on how that message is impacting on other people. And he kind of felt, no, I don't agree. So I actually said, well, if you don't believe me, go and ask people. Go and ask your people. Yeah, and they said yes. So his way of communicating, said he was a good communicator, but his way of communicating was that I've got a message, Robert, I want to convey to you, and I convey it, and I do it really, really well. So isn't that great? The fact that you're either pissed at me because I've said it, or I've disturbed you or hurt you or undermined you in some way about the way I've done it, I just don't see it at all. So that's where you begin to find out, well, where has this not played out well for you, and where has it not played out well for your team members? And then you begin to understand what are the areas that you really need to focus on. But at the end of the day, if you don't want to change, it is only interesting information. But if you want to change, you can do something about it.
So tell us about this mastermind, John. Like, is this where groups of people get together and have, what does a mastermind look like?
I mean, I've been a member of a mastermind for a number of years, and really, what what it's all about, where we get a group of individuals who meet on a very regular basis. We meet every week, and this is the kind of the platform that I'm using to actually, with my own group, meet every week. So it's people get together every week who are very open, they're very transparent, and they're committed not only to their own growth, but they're committing to supporting other people. And the whole purpose of it, I mean, I call the Mastermind a life and a living, because it's not just about making a living, it's about making a life, right? And it's actually about where people can be open, be transparent, and they can look for support from other people within the group, and that group will hold each other accountable to ensure their own growth over a period of time. So it's really like having a kind of your own board of directors for this particular journey that you're on, so that you're meeting weekly. You build the trust, you can be open, you can be vulnerable, it's a safe place. It's obviously confidential, and people can talk about the things that are really holding them back, and people can talk about the objectives they have and where they want to get to, and then the rest of the group is there to support each other and to help them grow. And through that, there's kind of learning process. There's information that is studied, there are books that are studied, that we actually make sure we're going through really, really valuable content, and then everyone gets a different perspective for that. But it really is for people who want to kind of create a life of significance in their own lives, and they want to make an impact and create a legacy for the people around them. And again, it's a commitment to actually engage and participate in that. And it is a commitment because people need to be prepared to get involved and to support each other, because people join because they want the support from each other. So if somebody is not actually committing to that, then they're letting everybody else down. So it really is a real commitment to create your own mini board of directors that are going to support you as you journey through.
And how long does it last?
It lasts for as long as, I've been a mastermind for a long, long time. Yeah. So it lasts for as long as people want to stay there. I think that it will last for as people feel they're getting value from it and people are actually making a contribution to it. But I mean, the intention is that it actually becomes part of your life.
Very cool. John, two final questions. One is, I'm a big foodie. You're in France.
Yes.
What do you like to eat out there in France?
Well, I mean, we're very spoiled. We're really, really spoiled in France in terms of the cuisine that we have available to us. I mean, I would be particularly a seafood person. So I just love shellfish. Oysters, not a biggest fan of, but apart from oysters, I would be a big fan of shellfish. And I live, within a short distance of the coast. So during the season, you can go down there and just get fish straight out of the sea, and there are plenty of super restaurants anywhere you go that you can really get great. So yeah, it's a foodie's paradise, I'd have to say.
Amazing. And John, how can people find you?
They can reach me. My email address is john@johnmurphyinternational.com. They can go to my website, www.johnmurphyinternational.com. They can get me in either of those places, or they can find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Twitter. But john@johnmurphyinternational.com is my website. And I'd love to hear from any of your listeners. And if I can have a conversation and support them in any way, I'd be delighted to do that.
Thanks, John. I really found this interesting, and I'll share this because we're really thinking about growth and scaling a business, and I think it's interesting that the growth and scale of a business, really, there's a lot of things that need to go right, and it starts with the leadership. And it's like you need to have your mind on right in order to be successful in a business. And I've seen leaders, and I've seen folks who I would argue are doing all the wrong things, and they still do well until they hit a certain point, and then the thing just kind of falls apart because they can't lead people. And I think it's interesting, even from when I look at myself, it's like I always want to be a better leader than I currently am. Very, very interesting, John.
Well, I think the job is never done. The job is never complete. But I think that as you say, the leader sets the tone. And that determines the culture in the business. And, I think it wasn't it Peter Drucker who said, culture eats strategy any day.
Yeah, very good. We'll leave it at that. Thank you so much, John.
Robert, it's a real pleasure. Thank you for the invitation, and I really enjoy the time with you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the LA Business Podcast. If you like what we're doing on this podcast, please consider subscribing on Apple or Google Play, leaving a 5-star review, and sharing with your friends. If you have any questions, comments, or recommendations for a guest you'd like to hear on this podcast, please email me, robert@brillmedia.co. Thank you. Have a fantastic day.